welcome to Heart of the Matter with Sonya Hartle, broadcasting on WYTV7 out of Charlotte, North Carolina. I am actually in Nashville, Tennessee this evening, and I want to thank all of you for being a part of the broadcast tonight. I also want to always take time to say I want to hear from you. Reach out to me with your prayer request. Also, again, if you have a story you would like to share that you believe can help others, please contact me at heartofthematter@wytv7@gmail.com. You can also reach me on Facebook through Messenger. Again, we're so glad you joined us this evening, and I've got a very special guest tonight. He actually lives here in Nashville, and he has such a heart just to bring Jesus into the communities that are surrounding us. And he also offers a lot of assistance through many different venues, many different programs. He is the senior pastor and the founder of Greater Compassion Ministries here in Nashville. And I'd like to introduce to you Pastor John Keith Vincent. And I believe most people call you Pastor Keith. Is that correct?
That's what they call me, Pastor Keith.
Okay. Well, I want to thank you for being here this evening. And John, would you just tell us a little bit about yourself tonight?
Well, first of all, thank you for the opportunity to present our ministry. And of course, I always look at these opportunities as something that is an opportunity to share what I believe and what I'm passionate about. You know, I grew up in a very Christian-oriented family. My late father was a pastor, a bishop, and of course, even before I came to the knowledge of the Lord, before I even came into the world, the existence, him and my mother were saved, and they were filled with the Spirit of God, and just, you know, they brought their children, all of their children, all six of us, up in the fear and admonition of the Lord. And so I'm grateful for that. But I'm married 24 years this month, actually.
Congratulations.
3 children, 2 of which are in college. And I'm excited to do the work of ministry, things that God has called us to do in this season. And it's just a great opportunity to be saved. To me, I think it's the best thing. It's the best time to be saved.
That's right.
And to be a believer.
I totally agree with you. And one of the things I want to share about Pastor Keith is he just has a heart to share love and compassion in his community. And I know he has talked with me about a lot of the programs that he has for youth. And I know that's a big part of his ministry and things that really are important to him. And so we talked a little bit about building a legacy.
Yes.
And so this evening, Pastor Keith's going to share some things with us on how to build a legacy and how to, leave something of value when you leave this world.
Well, and I'm so glad to be able to talk about that because I'm very passionate about it. You know, we have people who are more concerned about inheritance than they are leaving a legacy. You know, an inheritance is what someone can leave for you when you're gone. And usually it's something by which you inherit and then you do whatever. But when we're talking about building a legacy, really, I come from the perspective of making sure that you serve others, making sure that you provide something that can be there for other people. Even when you're gone, the works that you do will speak for you. Whatever your life is, whatever it is that God has called you to do it well. And of course, people today, and particularly young people, are not given that sense of direction in life. Everybody kind of is do what I want to do mentality. It's all about me. I think leaving a legacy is kind of removing yourself somewhat and not being so focused on what your needs are, but focusing on the needs of others. That's, to me, building legacy and preparing the next generation. I think about it and I take it to heart, Sonya, because I know we're not always going to be here. We're not going to be here always, and so it's important that we prepare the next generation. It's important that we pour out our hearts to them, give them love, that's one of the greatest legacies to me that can be left is love. Teaching them how to love themselves, to love God first, love themselves, and love others.
Yeah. I tell you, John, I totally agree with you. You know, that kind of takes me back to the legacy that God left, you know, through Jesus. And,
Amen.
you know, then we talk, you know, talking about the Bible and the legacy that she left. And, you know, some of you growing up, you know, I remember my mother always telling me to treat others how you want to be treated. And I feel like that's a legacy that we leave to our children. You know, we have God, Jesus states that, you know, in the Bible, treat others how you want to be treated. I believe that's in Matthew
7 and
7.
12.
Okay, thank you.
Do unto others as you would have them do unto you.
Exactly. And so, you know, he left that legacy. My mom left that to me. And, you know, I hope that I can instill that legacy in my children, my grandchildren. And then, John, I know you've got some community projects. I know one of the things that you mentioned were the girls' volleyball. And so it's not just about the volleyball, it's about instilling life skills and leaving a legacy through these girls in the community. And so would you talk a little bit about some of the life skills and the volleyball and how that works hand in hand?
Sure. Well, you know, our ministry, the church, Greater Compassion Ministries, was established to, one, promote the gospel, the message of Jesus Christ, offering hope to the world, healing for the wounded, and simply we're about building kingdom and building community. So one of the things we've done with our 501c3, which is actually Greater Compassion Community Initiatives, is we initiate various programs within the community that can be of value, that can be a resource, that can help people. You know, there's so many hurting people. So particularly with the volleyball, we seen that as an opportunity to expose young people to their athleticism, but connect their athleticism with spirituality as well as team building skills, building that camaraderie, learning how to work together. And we took a group of we had 2 different teams this year, and we were able to send them to various camps and send them to various tournaments. And this was the first time that we've done that particular program this year, but it was really well. It was Christian based. So we would start out with prayer and we would give them some moral lessons, if you will. And we state that up front, you know, it is a volleyball club, Club Power, but it is also a Christian organization. And in doing so, we'd rather those girls be connected and bonding and learning how to work together than somewhere out, getting into things that they don't need to get into, becoming promiscuous, becoming early parents and young parents. And so we felt like it was a very success, the first run. That was that this year, but we've done a lot of other things as well. We've worked with those who have been on drugs, drug addiction, and we connected with other ministries throughout the state that help to deal with people who are struggling with addiction. There's a lot of people that deal with addictions, and we have to love them. You know, we have to love people where they are.
Exactly. I totally agree with that. And, you know, that's what Jesus does. He loves us right where we are.
That's right.
And, you know, he just waits for us to reach out to him. And so I think that's great. And I can think back, you know, growing up, I was in softball and basketball, and how important, you know, our coaches, number one, examples, you know, teaching us, you know, how to be a good person.
That's right.
And to have respect for ourselves, for our teammates, and to learn to work together. And so I think that program involving the girls volleyball is just great. I mean, I can't tell you, and, you know, I've watched, you know, my daughter be in cheer, and, you know, I see the team and how they have to learn to work together. And sometimes that's the hardest part. And, you know, I think back even into biblical times, and sometimes they didn't always want to work together. And, you know, Jesus was always about peace, and we're working together for a common cause. And so I love that y'all are helping, you know, young people instill those values, and it helps create confidence where they know that they can be successful leaders in the community, successful adults, and that they can leave that legacy to their children. So
Well,
that's what you've really established there
yes.
with the time and the servanthood.
Well, Sonya, also in addition to that, and you're absolutely right, I've noticed it also helped the parents. The parents are helped by it. It helps them to have an appreciation more so for their children, but it also helps them to see the potential in their children, what they have the capability of doing, what they have the capability of learning, and how they work together. Particularly when you're raised in a family and you're the only child, sometimes you're accustomed to getting everything, and when it comes to working with others, you don't really know how to deal with that. And so we are we're very passionate about teaching and helping people to work together and to, bring your skill set, whatever it is, bring it in, sharpen it, build it up, and help them also academically. So it's a combination. I mean, it's spiritually, it's athletically, but it's definitely academically, because we want them to be successful.
Well, and John, we've also talked a little bit about, what it takes as far as leaving a legacy with our family and with our friends. And I know I looked just a little bit earlier, and I had found some things online. I kind of looked up what it would take. Maybe they suggested about 10 things. And, one of the things I want to talk about tonight is, how will people remember you? And what do you want your family and your friends to remember about you? And so when I looked at some of the 10 ways, we're just going to kind of talk about some of those. Contribute. What we contribute to our family. And then one of the other things that I looked at, it kind of surprised me, was create. And so, maybe you can talk about some of those things as far as, writing, singing, drawing. I know you've done some of those things in the past. And
yeah, still doing some. And those are good, those 10. I think, there's so many things as it relates to legacy, but when you contribute, one of the things that I think as a parent, is showing my children and contributing to them, not just in monetary things, but the wisdom, the knowledge, the experience. So, you don't want your children or even your grandchildren to have to go through some of the struggles that you went through because of the decisions that you made, whether they were poor decisions or just circumstantial. And so it's a good thing to be able to contribute knowledge, to share, to expand. And then the creative side, I'm a very creative person myself. I was an athlete years ago. I write songs. I've written a number of songs.
Now, what was that height jump that you had? I remember you telling me.
I had an article, that came out. My boys didn't believe it, but I had a 41-inch vertical. I played at Oral Roberts University, a graduate of Oral Roberts University, very proud of that school, and one of the greatest experiences I had, and it was wonderful. But 41-inch vertical, played basketball, and it made opportunities available for me. I used my gift. But these are things, you create an environment that's conducive for growth, that's conducive for progression in life.
Yes.
We're living in a technological environment and age, and so it's hard to keep up, but we have to be mindful of how to communicate. And one of the things I would like to say concerning legacy, Sonya, is, a legacy of faith, maintaining that foundation. My children know, even if they were to choose to go a different way, they know how they have been raised and what their belief system is. And part of that is attributed to having parents that raised me, and it just kind of is perpetuated. Some families didn't come up in that environment, but your faith, then also building the structure of your family. That's a legacy, teaching them what family is about. Even broken homes, maybe someone come from a broken family, but there's still no excuse. We can show the generation behind the importance of a family that works together. I've taught my children, work together to accomplish your goals. Come together, don't try to outdo each other. It's nothing wrong with a little competition, but at the end of the day, we're a family. We work together. then you're friends. Iron sharpeneth iron. So we build the countenance of each other, and with friends, you have to choose them wisely,
Yes, you
because
do.
everyone is not your friends. But and then even the area of finances, those are just some areas that I consider. But all of those collectively, even with the 10 steps that you got off the internet, I think all of those are very good. Ultimately, it's all about service. What, and you asked a very important question. How will people remember you?
Mhm.
Will you just be a dash,
Mhm.
the beginning of your life, dash, the ending of your life? Or will there be something that is so profound that people will say, you know, this person was someone special. This person was someone who made a difference. And that's who I seek to be.
That's great.
That's who I seek to be.
And you know, Pastor Keith, I see that in you. And I have looked at some of the other things, and one of the things it talks about is giving, and you touched on some of that.
Mhm.
And not just money and monetary, but take time to give help,
Right.
to give advice, and give your time. And it can be anything. And a lot of times people say, oh, I don't want to do that, I don't get anything in return. Give your time without expecting anything in return. Give your advice, give your wisdom, share those, and I promise you, God promises us we will receive for what we've sown. And
Mhm.
so it may not be through that person, but it will be through someone else. And so always know that when you give to someone, you are going to receive. And it's always more blessed to me to give and to take the time to do that. And so one of the other things we talked about is just do good, be
Mhm.
kind, smile, offer someone just a compliment, because you never know when that one word you may say to someone may save their life.
That's right.
Just a compliment could save someone's life that's maybe contemplating suicide. And I've heard too many stories of that happening, of just that one word of someone saying, wow, you have beautiful eyes, or your hair is beautiful, at the checkout counter, has saved someone's life because they thought no one ever noticed them. And just that one little comment.
Mhm.
And so have you ever experienced anything like, do
Oh
you?
my. Well, I experience it daily with you all, working with you, having the opportunity to deal with great people. But no, you're so right. A smile can go so far.
Mhm.
It can change the very environment of which you're in. And of course, I see in our world today, there are a lot of people who are disgruntled. There are a lot of people who are frustrated. You hear it on the news, the road rage, and people just out of control with their emotions. And we need to take time to just sit back, step back for a moment, and look at what God has blessed us with, and be thankful for that, and try to convey that positive energy. There's so much negative energy in the world. I mean, from the political world, even in the Christian world, there's so many things going on. And I encourage people, when I even preach and teach, we have to keep our eyes fixed on Jesus. He's the great example. There's a lot of things that are out there today, but in terms of leaving a legacy, and Christ left a legacy, one of the greatest legacies. He made it possible for all of humanity to be redeemed to God, to be reconciled. That's legacy. That's great legacy. And so we're appreciative of the works of the Lord Jesus Christ. But it is important that we keep an attitude that helps to promote forward progress in life. Sometimes we get stuck, and things happen. We're human, but we have to remind ourselves as believers and as people of faith that even in our humanness, we have the Spirit of Christ within us, and that gives us the power to control and behave ourselves and act appropriately.
Yes, yes. And John, you shared a story with me the other day about someone reaching out to you that you hadn't seen since probably fourth grade. And would you just share that? Because I thought that was a great story and kind of went right on into the legacy. And so would you share that, and then about your music?
Sure. The power of social media is so profound. I was sent a message from a fourth grade classmate who I have not seen in a long time. And of course, it was just a memory that came to her mind as we were celebrating having been connected. And so had not talked, but she brought up a precious memory. I remember in the fourth grade, we were in class, and I always was musically inclined. My whole family is musically inclined. I played drums, I played organ, keyboard. I mean, we all did something, sing. And so I had a problem sitting still. If you can believe that. I had a problem sitting still in class, and it was not so much moving as it was beating on things. And so I constantly would get reminded from the teachers, and progress reports would go home. He's a good student, but he makes noise. He's always beating on things. But I'll never forget a teacher, and this particular student, fellow student who reached out to me, she reminded me of Mr. James Morrow. That was his name. James Morrow, he's deceased now, I understand, but James Morrow was a teacher. He taught us the 8 parts of speech, and he did so many other things. But what he did for me that was very, very special, he saw the gift in me. And of course, there's a group called the Gap Band. Some people would know them. They go back in the 80s, 70s, 80s, but he recognized the gifting in me. And so he allowed me to engage in learning. And he told me, I want you to become the percussionist for the class, and we're going to learn the 8 parts of speech. And so I would get the beating, and I would get the playing, and we would start singing, a noun is a word.
Oh, wow.
That names a person, place, or thing. A pronoun is a word that takes the place of a noun. And we would just go on and on and on with that song. I just gave you a little bit of it, but on the spot. But it was so amazing and that stuck with me. And it stuck with her because she, to this day, she said, you were the greatest drummer.
I love that. And I love how you still remember it all.
I remember that.
So we know that it worked.
A verb is an action word.
There you go.
And he was a good teacher, and he saw the gifting, and that's legacy, I believe, also seeing the good in an individual, seeing the talent, the gift, if you will,
yes,
and helping them to hone that gift so that they can learn whatever they need to. I mean, that applies in every facet of life.
I agree with you 100%, because he could have beat that down.
He could have beat it down.
He chose to lift you up.
Yeah.
And so I think that's a great.
And use it as a learning tool.
That's right.
Because all of the students learned, and when it came time to quoting the 8 parts of speech, and we would go through it, I would start out with a beat, and everybody would start singing this song. And so it was amazing just to connect with her again.
I love that. That is great. Well, Pastor Keith, now I know you've done some writing as you've gotten older and have a music ministry, and so if you'd share just a little bit about, I believe the song that you're going to share tonight is called Make Us One. Would you tell a little bit of how that came to you and just kind of introduce the song for us?
Sure. I have been actually recording songs since 2001 professionally in the studio. We released a number of projects, and we've worked with a number of artists that are out there, done compilation CDs. I've written songs going back to the 90s and maybe even earlier, but this particular song, Make Us One, it's a short, simple song. The message is quite simple but quite profound. Simply looking at the body of Christ, and we look at where we are today as a people, as a nation, and how we're so divided. This song was given to me through inspiration. You know, that was a prayer in the Bible, Lord, make us one. And so we were inspired. I was inspired to write this song, and it was just one that was given to me to encourage wherever you come from, whatever walk of life, know that we are one in spirit. We're one in our worship, one in our praise. We should be connected. And of course, the message of the song, it speaks really for itself. It's a short message, but it is very strong. It's a very profound message, I believe. And the essence of it is, regardless of where you are, we all need each other. And most importantly, we need God. And so when we're one in spirit, we're one in our worship, our purpose, we're one, we're connected, there's nothing that can stop us from moving forward.
That's great. Well, I can't wait to hear the song. And so we're going to play that at this time. And Pastor Keith's song, Make Us One.
Jesus Christ, God's only Son, please make us one. Please make us one. Lord, I pray, please make us one. Can you help me say, make us one. Lord, make us one. Make us one. In the Spirit. Jesus Christ, oh, please make us one. Oh, please make us one. Lord, I pray, please make us one. Listen, make us one in our worship. Make us one in our praise, one in the Spirit, forever and always, always, always one, yeah. Please make us one in the Spirit of Jesus Christ, God's Holy Son. Please make us one. Oh, Lord, I pray. Please make us one. Oh, Lord, I pray. Please make us one.
Make us one. That is one of my songs, and that is the sentiment of my heart today, that the Lord will make us one, regardless of our divides, spiritual divides, Christian divides, political divides, wherever you might be, regardless of gender, race. Lord, make us one. And that's where I'm at today. That's what I feel in my spirit, Sonya.
Well, I tell you, that was just a beautiful song, and I agree. You know, we all have to come together and just really, I love that sentiment of make us one. And so, you know, I want to kind of share a little bit more. We're kind of coming to a close this evening, and, you know, I want to think about and challenge you as we close the broadcast, you know, here in the next few minutes, to think about what your legacy is. If you can build your legacy through words, actions, attitude. And I'm thinking about a memorial service I just went to recently. And I watched as the family stood up and paid tribute and honored this person. And what stood out in my mind was everyone that stood up talked about what faith he had. And it reminded me of the scripture in 2 Timothy. I believe it's 4:7. And Paul talks about, he says, I fought the good fight. I've finished the race. I've kept the faith. And that was more important than any of his travels, any of his money. Everything was about faith. And I remember the last time I spoke with my friend before he passed away, he said he'd been up all night the night before. And I asked him, I said, what were you doing all night? Were you watching TV? And he said, no, I was reading my Bible. And as the people spoke at the memorial service, I said, boom, he fought the good fight. He won the race, and he had faith all the way to the end. And as we close tonight, I want to challenge you to fight the good fight and to leave that legacy of love, hope, faith. And so when you stand before Jesus one day, he'll say, well done, my good and faithful servant.
Amen.
And so, John, I want to thank you so much. I called him John. Most people know him as Pastor Keith. It's kind of habit. And so I want to thank you so much
Thank you
for sharing your heart and for teaching us how to build a legacy.
Yeah.
I want to thank you for your service in the community, working with young people. And, you know, John just has that heart. And I love the title of his ministry, Greater Compassion, because I see him have that daily. I see him walk that walk of faith. And again, you can reach us at Heart of the Matter, WYTV7@gmail.com. Also on Facebook Messenger. And as we close, John, is there anything else that you would like to share and leave our listeners with this evening?
Well, again, thank you for this opportunity. I just want to speak to someone and let you know that, you know, it may be difficult right now. Things may be hard. Sometimes life may seem dismal, but God is with you. God has not forgotten you. And just keep working, keep pressing. The Apostle Paul also said, forgetting those things which are behind and reaching towards those things which are before, I press toward the mark for the prize of the high calling of God, which is in Christ Jesus. Keep building. Don't stop building. That's my encouragement, Sonya. Don't stop building. Know that what you're doing, it matters. It matters. It matters to God. It matters to those who you care about. And so, you know, we appreciate God and his goodness for us, but God also appreciates us. And I encourage you just to continue to look up to Jesus, because he will be there for you. And with him, all things are possible.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Pastor Keith. And in closing, we just wish you much love, blessings, and favor to your family.
Thank you.
And we thank all of you for being a part of the broadcast tonight. Have a great evening.
God bless.